Whoa, 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 let me make sure I have everything first. Sunglasses check, hat check, Pepsi check, vape check, notes check, thick skin check, and sources check. Man, let's go. Welcome back to Golden Bluted, everybody. If you're a college football fan, you already know what to do. Hit the like and subscribe button because that's all we do here. Golden Bluted is still rolling well past 9,000 subscribers, but we have a goal of 10,000 subscribers by the kickoff of the Backyard Brawl. That is September 1st. I know we can do it, but we can't do it without you hitting the subscribe button. In this video, I'm going to talk about the bounce back year. And right now, there's two teams that a lot of people are talking about as far as having a bounce back year from 2021. And that's Nebraska and USC. So I looked into this to try to figure out which one of these teams would have a bigger bounce back year. Nebraska went 3-9 last year and USC went 4-8. One of these teams had a brutal schedule, and one of these teams, the talent just wasn't there. So for the bounce back, one of this is based on a much easier schedule and the other one is based on getting a lot of talent. I think you already know where I'm going with this. First, we'll start with Nebraska. Last year they went 3-9, not a great season. They averaged 27.9 points per game, that was 71st, allowed 22.7 points per game, 36, so a decent defense. Their head coach Scott Frost, pretty good coach, but hasn't done well at Nebraska. 2018 4-8, 2019 5-7, 2023 5, 2021 3-9. Not a winning season yet. The thing that gives Nebraska fans hope for this year is last year all their losses were close. Their biggest loss was 9 points to Ohio State. They didn't get blown out, a lot of lower scoring games, and it was because their offense wasn't very good. Well, it looks like their schedule lightens up quite a bit. They were number 7 in the transfer portal, so they did go out and get some help. They got the 4-star defensive end Ochon Mathis from TCU, 45 tackles, 4 sacks, and 3 pass deflections last year. They also got 4-star quarterback Tommy Hill from Arizona State, but a bigger pickup than people realize is 3-star quarterback Casey Thompson from Texas. Last year, 165 for 261, 63.2%, over 2,113 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Slight dual threat quarterback, 55 carries for 157 yards, that's 2.9 yards a carry, and 4 touchdowns. I think this guy is underrated, and I think he's going to pay dividends immediately. You're going to have a good quarterback, Nebraska. But what about their schedule? What does their schedule look like? Much easier than what it was last year. First, they start an out-of-country game. Not out-of-conference, but out-of-country. Dublin, Ireland against Northwestern. Then they get FCS North Dakota, Group of 5 Georgia Southern. They get Oklahoma at home. Then they get their first bye week. Then they get Indiana at home. So they don't even have their first true road trip until their 6th game. And that's at Rutgers. After that, they stay on the road at Purdue. And they get Illinois at home, Minnesota at home, at Michigan, Wisconsin at home, and at Iowa. I think that first game is very important. You got to get that win over Northwestern, and I think Nebraska does that. You get a good practice win against North Dakota, a good semi-practice win against Georgia Southern, and I think you win the 50-50 football game against Oklahoma. You played them tough last year. I think you're going to be better, and it's at home. I think Nebraska beats Oklahoma this year. Then you get your first bye week, then another home game against Indiana. I think that should be an easy win. Then on the road to Rutgers, probably going to be an easy win. So you're looking at starting up the season 6-0. That would be a great start. After that, you stay on the road at Purdue. I have that as a 50-50 football game, and I think Nebraska drops that. It is a back-to-back road trip, and Purdue is still going to be a good team. So no shame in that loss. Then you get your second bye week. Then you get Illinois at home. I think that's a win. Minnesota at home. I think that's a win. And at Michigan, I think that's a 50-50 loss. Michigan not going to be as good as what they were last year, but still good enough to beat you at home. You get Wisconsin at home. I think that's a 50-50 win. Being in Lincoln, a lot of questions over at Wisconsin, and then finally on the road to Iowa. That's just a tough environment. I have that as a 50-50 loss. So I have Nebraska going from 3-9 to 9-3. That is a big bounce back year. What about USC? Last year they went 4-8, averaged 28.7 points per game. That was 65th, but allowed 31.8 points per game. That was 103rd. Their defense was terrible, but their schedule wasn't all that bad. They got San Jose State at home, who they beat. They got Stanford at home, who they lost to. I predicted that. Went on the road, beat Washington State, lost to Oregon State at home, went on the road to Colorado and won that, came back home and lost to Utah. USC was losing their home games last year. Went on the road and lost to Notre Dame, came back home and beat a very bad Arizona, went back on the road, lost to Arizona State, lost to UCLA at home, lost to BYU at home, and lost to Cal at home. So only 2 home games USC won last year, and that was San Jose State and Arizona. Unlike Nebraska, USC's schedule is actually a little more difficult than what it was last year. That just tells you how bad USC was last year. the schedule was actually favorable. First you get Rice, then at Stanford, then Fresno State, then at Oregon State, then you get Arizona State and Washington State at home, then on the road to Utah, then you get your bye week, and I think that bye week is well placed, by the way. Then at Arizona, Cal at home, Colorado at home, at UCLA, and Notre Dame at home. So the schedule might actually be a little bit more difficult than last year, but USC got a lot of talent in the transfer portal. And don't forget about head coach Lincoln Riley. All he's done is win. Here's a look at what he did at Oklahoma. 2017, 12-2, 2018, 12-2, 2019, 12-2, 2020, 9-2, 2021, 10-2. 2 lost seasons every stinking year. USC was number 1 in the transfer portal. They got wide receiver Jordan Addison, the number 1 ranked wide receiver in the nation. I think he won an award for that, didn't he? Transfer from Pitt, had 100 receptions for 1,593 yards and 17 touchdowns. They also got the highly touted linebacker Eric Gentry from Arizona State, 45 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 pass deflections. They also got the running back Travis Dye from Oregon, 211 carries for 1,271 yards, 6 yards a carry, and 16 touchdowns. USC is going to have a good passing and running game this year. They also got highly touted quarterback Latrell McCutcheon from Oklahoma. They got the wide receiver from Oklahoma, Mario Williams, 35 receptions for 380 yards and 4 touchdowns. They got the wide receiver Brendan Rice from Colorado, 21 receptions for 299 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then, of course, the quarterback, Caleb Williams from Oklahoma. That's 3 players that Lincoln Riley brought from Oklahoma to USC. And Caleb Williams, here's what he looked like last year. 136 for 211, that's 64.5%, threw for 1,912 yards, 21 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. Big-time dual threat quarterback. 79 carries for 442 yards, that's 5.6 yards a carry, and 6 touchdowns. He can hurt you with his arm, and he can hurt you with his legs. So even though I think USC's schedule is going to be a little bit more difficult than last year, they're going to have a lot more talent. So here's how I see their season shaking out. First, an easy win against Rice at home. Then I think USC goes on the road and takes care of business and beats Stanford. That's a win. Then you get Fresno State at home. I actually consider this a 50-50 football game because Fresno State's going to be good, but it's at home, so I'm giving the win to USC. On the road to Oregon State. This is a 50-50 football game. I just think USC slips up here. USC has a long history of having nightmare games in Corvallis. Oregon State's actually going to be decent. I have this as a 50-50 loss for USC. After that, you get a down Arizona State at home. USC gets the win right there. You get a decent Washington State team at home. I'm giving USC the win. Then a road trip to a tough Utah. This is where you're going to lose. And it could be convincingly, maybe by a couple touchdowns. I just don't see USC going on the road and beating the best team in the Pac-12. I think Utah will be the best team next year. But you do get your bye week. Like I said, well placed. After that, on the road to Arizona, that should be an easy win. Then you get Cal at home. That should be a win. Then you get Colorado at home. That should be a win. On the road to UCLA. I have this as a 50-50 football game, but I have USC losing to UCLA. UCLA's not going to be a pushover. Remember, last year they went 8-4, and they're going to be good again under Chip Kelly. That's a close loss for USC. And then finally, a home game against Notre Dame. I've gone back and forth on this game all year long, all off season long. I'm going to call this as a 50-50 loss for USC. I think losing to UCLA is going to stick with USC mentally, and they're going to lose another close game to Notre Dame. So if you're going by technicality, Nebraska actually has the bigger bounce back year according to my predictions, going from 3-9 to 9-3, and I have USC going 4-8 to 8-4. That's still a great bounce back year, USC. Honestly, based on the schedule, I think at minimum Nebraska goes 8-4. That's a very doable schedule. Maybe the only game that I get wrong on there would be Oklahoma. I'm very confident in all of those other wins. Now for USC, they could go as low as 7-5, but they could also go as high as having a 10-win season. I could be wrong about Oregon State, and I could be wrong about Notre Dame, but I'm pretty confident about USC losing on the road to Utah and losing on the road to UCLA. So there's the bounce back season predictions for Nebraska and USC according to Golden Blue Dude. Y'all let me know in the comments section, which team do you think has the biggest bounce back year in 2022? Nebraska or USC? That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.